Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Light Bulb Moments series with the big idea. And today we're going to be chatting to Nicole Vergos, a good friend of mine, and obviously a person with amazing skills. So without further ado, Nicole, quickly introduce yourself to those who might not know who you are.
Thank you, Nick. I'm so happy to be here and thank you for your kind words. Hi, everybody. My name is Nicole, and I am the co-founder of a company called Smergos, which I run with Nick. And we are a disability inclusion company. In addition to that, I also have many years' experience working in market research. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here today.
So diving into your speciality, the area that you are the ninja at, that is your market research. Now, you've done many years of market research in the corporate space, doing that boring research, but you've also done some exciting work that you kind of are passionate about and wanted to dive into for yourself. And doing that, you ended up winning an award. You won in 2019 the most impactful presentation at the Summer Awards. Can you please explain or tell us more about that?
Sure. So the SAMRA Award stands for the South African Market Research Association. And in 2019, I decided to submit a paper that I wanted to focus on disability inclusion and accessibility. At the time, I was working for a company called Ipsos, and they gave me the resources to be able to run this research project. So I was able to set up an online community, and I recruited people with varying types of physical and invisible disabilities. And I also wanted to speak to the friends and family of people with disabilities. And then I got the results and I put together a report, and that was what I went ahead and presented at the SAMRA conference. And at the SAMRA conference, it was predominantly other market researchers as well as brand managers that were there. And there were really two core themes that I wanted to bring across to that audience. The first one was for them to just acknowledge that there is this segment of society and of these customers that are often overlooked. And I wanted to bring to light that these people with disabilities are using their products and services and going to their stores. But as I said, oftentimes they are just disregarded when these brands are putting together their marketing and their business strategies. So it was really to highlight that they are a segment that that should be considered and acknowledged, but also remembering that they are a segment that reaches far broader than just the people with disabilities, but also their loved ones. Because of that emotional connection, it will often have an impact on the brands that their friends and family will use and engage with. So if you know that someone close to you has had a bad experience with a specific brand, you're less likely to use them in the future, or you're more likely to use them because you had a positive experience. So it was to highlight the importance of being more inclusive and how it has a much broader ripple effect. The other thing that I wanted to highlight in my study was how, the idea of being more inclusive and accessible is generally seen as this big, scary thing. And, it requires a whole company overhaul, or you need to reinvent the wheel. And it was really to highlight that it doesn't have to be that way. You can take your existing business and just make a couple of adjustments, and those adjustments will have, dramatically improve the customer experience.
Yeah. Thank you so much for explaining, and congratulations once again. I think you traveled to Mauritius for that, am I right?
Well, yes. Yeah, so after I won the SAMRA Award, they then sent me to go and present my paper in Mauritius for the Pan-Africa Market Research Association. So that was very exciting.
And that's why I had to bring that in, because you are now Miss International.
Getting there, slowly but surely becoming an international speaker.
You're giving me a run for my money here. The next question I wanted to ask leads or directly links to what you were talking about now, because it's so important, and that is the misconceptions and challenges faced by people with disabilities in the workplace. Now, I know you are a person with a disability in a wheelchair, and your frame of reference is that you don't have a learning disability or anything like that. But from your perspective, what are some of the misconceptions and challenges that you've personally faced in the workplace?
Sure. So I think a lot of it is, as you mentioned, what I touched on before, is I think that, there there is this misconception from organizations that if they decided to integrate people with disabilities, there has to be this major change that they would need to make. There is that it doesn't have to be such big changes. It could be little things. So, for example, I remember in my one organization, it was something as simple as just moving the microwave down from a higher level to a lower one so that I would be able to warm up my food independently and not have to ask someone to do it for me. So that's one example, is that I think that oftentimes it is little things that organizations can do that can make a big difference. But something that I would like to mention that is maybe a little bit of a different angle is also coming from a person with a disability. So I remember when I started to look for work, it is your almost your default setting to go and look for jobs that are targeted to people with disabilities. So whether they be learnerships or internships, that type of thing. And it didn't take me very long to realize that those were very limited. There was very limited number of them that were available, and also the type of work that they allocated in those internships and learnerships, mostly call center related or like admin related, that type of thing. And that was when I decided to take the initiative on my own and just went, well, maybe I can apply for another type of job, even if they don't specifically mention a person with a disability. And that's what I did. And sure, I got turned down a lot, but you only need that one yes, right?
Yeah.
And that was what I managed to get. And once you get that yes, I also find that when you then put into a corporate environment, a lot of it is by leading by example. So just by being yourself, going about your business, you start to gain the respect of those around you, and you start to open their eyes to what accessibility really is, and that it's more than, as I said, just a ramp, but something. Can Nicole make her morning coffee? Or can she get to the bathroom? Or what do we do when there's a fire drill? So just by your presence in there, you're able to lead by example.
That's awesome. And I think, leading by example, or taking the initiative and stepping out of perhaps your comfort zone is so important, because myself as a person with a disability, I went through that exact same thing. Do I look for posts that are only for people with disabilities? And I quickly said no to that. And I, took the challenge on. And I think it's so important, because you're breaking down those barriers by being there, and you're making the path easier for others to follow. You might have been the first person with a disability in the company, but there will be, people that join that have disabilities in the future, and you've just helped make their path just that much easier. So, like, props to you for doing that and for taking that initiative, and also being a little bit, of a rebel. So nicely done.
Thank
So
you, Nick. And as you say, you did the similar thing from a schooling perspective,
yeah,
being the first teacher with a disability in a particular school.
yeah. And for me, like back then, it was, I'm doing this at a time where accessibility and inclusion wasn't a huge thing. Now, obviously, it is changing, and I think it's changing for the better. Not only in corporate spaces, but also in schooling and other areas. So I think the shift is slowly happening, and I think it's really, really important, and I think it's great to see. So with that in mind, and being the co-founder of Smergos, obviously, we as Smergos want to help shift that change, and we want to inspire motion, not just in one area, but across the board in society as a whole. So what is Smergos's idea in terms of sustainability and helping people with disability making a long-term change in their life or in their companies as a whole?
So I think, what we're currently facing the challenge with is there's what we often refer to as the tick box mentality. So this is where you will have a large corporation, and there are certain requirements, essentially tick boxes that they need to adhere to. in order to be compliant, with our different measurements, whether it be employment equity, BEE, that sort of thing. And disability falls within that. So what often happens is that you will have these internships or learnerships that I touched on earlier, where they will run them and they will bring in a certain number of people with disabilities into their organization, and they will pay them for the time that they are there. But there's really no intention of absorbing any of them in a full-time basis. So what happens is that then they have the learnerships, and from their side, they can put the little tick, we did it, but there's no real impact or that they're making from that. And what happened is, you and I know, is that we've spoken to so many people that have had 20 or 30 learnerships that they've gone on in their lives without really having the opportunity for that professional growth, which I think is really sad. So I think that's really where Smergos is coming in and wanting to, what you touched on earlier, is break down those barriers of saying, okay, even if you do want to start off with a learnership, that's absolutely fine. But then how many people do you have the potential to absorb, at the end of that? Or are there opportunities for people with disabilities at more senior levels to come in? And we can do that by helping them with a range of different things. Our 3 pillars are inclusion, accessibility, and empathy. And within those, we have different services that we offer. But really, the goal is that to make it sustainable, right? And meaningful for everybody involved. So whether that does mean that we come in and we do an accessibility audit of their building, or we do training for the managers who maybe have never worked with someone with a disability before and how they navigate that. These are just a couple of examples that I'm touching on, but really that is our goal, is to be a partnership, to be in partnership with these companies and to be able to guide them across this journey so that it's something that can be sustainable in the long term.
Yeah, I think that's so important for companies to think of it not as you said, not a tick box, but a journey, right? And also, I think that kind of says to them, you don't have to go from not having it to having it 100% done. It's a journey of steps. It's a journey of discoveries. It's a journey of perhaps little mistakes along the way. And that's why we want to walk that journey with them, to help support them on this journey and help them make those right decisions. Like, for example, one thing that I think is really cool is the mentorship and peer support that we offer, because that's giving the individuals with disabilities that are working at these corporates particular guidance, support, training, that regardless of whether they stay in that company or not, they can walk away with those skills and that knowledge, and it will help support them no matter where they go. So I think that's really, really cool. Again, focusing on that idea that it's not just a tick box, but making a long-lasting change.
Absolutely.
So a question that a company might be asking is, okay, cool, I've just listened to you and I want to go on this journey. I'm afraid, and there are a lot of unknown factors, but why wouldn't I just tick that box? I've been ticking that box for a long time. What are the other benefits to employing or integrating people with disabilities into the corporate space?
Well, I think I think that there's been a lot of studies to show that there is benefit from being a more diverse organization, and having people from varying backgrounds and abilities. The interesting thing about people with disabilities, and I don't think we give ourselves enough credit for this, is that a lot of us are innovative thinkers and entrepreneurs in many ways. And the reason for that is because of the circumstances, because we are in a world that is not really adapted to our needs. So we have had to learn to adapt in order to get on with our day-to-day lives. And because of that, as I said, it sparks this creative and innovative way of thinking and moving in the world, which I think is really valuable for an organization, right? To have those kind of out-the-box thinkers, or people that maybe are more willing to challenge the status quo because they've never really been part of it in the first place. So I think that's definitely a benefit there. I think the other thing, and we've seen again the trends coming out, is that, you know, the way that the world is headed is that consumers in general, you know, yes, sure, you know, there will be some fundamental truths that will never change, that consumers want affordable products and they want it now. You know, those are always going to remain true. But the other thing that we are seeing secondarily to that is that consumers are, you know, looking to support brands that they feel have values and they feel that are making a social impact. You know, so I think, again, if you are someone that is showing that, you know, you realize that people with disabilities have largely been unemployed for so long, and now you're trying to change that and make a difference to people, that they can have a professional and career growth in their lives and become self-sufficient and contributing members of society, I think you'll find that it will do wonders for your brand, and you'll find that more people will want to support you.
So not only will it make it more diverse, the group more diverse, it'll make the thinking and problem solving and perspective more diverse and like
Absolutely.
multifaceted, which I think every company needs to kind of tackle right now, because we live in such a fast-paced world that is integrating AI and you know, shifting with the times. Having that fresh perspective or having that different perspective often helps see things and go, oh, well, the team didn't think of it like that. And then that kind of shifts the discussion and allows for more richer experience, which I think is awesome. So thinking of about that, and then obviously tying back into your marketing experience, how do you see the marketing side of things and research shifting in the future?
Yeah, so at the moment, I don't see too many shifts, but I do hope that they will change in the future, and it is something that, in my small capacity, I'm trying to drive. Is, you know, for these market research agencies to consider, you know, when they are doing these research studies, are they being diverse? Are they looking at all types of respondents with all types of backgrounds and abilities? You know, so for example, if you have an online panel, do you ask your panel if they have a form of disability and what that is? I mean, I think that that would be really valuable, to be able to have that information and be able to go to your clients and say, you know, don't just look at this segment of your market. You know, have you considered the broader segment or the potential of bringing in a new type of customer into your services? So I think that it's something that I'm trying to encourage to do more from a data collection perspective, and then also the kind of questions that I ask, you know, so that we can help these, because I think research is a really important tool, to helping these companies become more inclusive and accessible. Because if they have that information and they have the numbers, and then you're giving them the know-how, then they would be able to implement that much quicker. So that's where I'm hoping to push the research industry slowly but surely.
So you're shifting it, and I'm playing on your name here, your business name. You're shifting it from subconscious to conscious. Am I right?
That's correct.
So what is your business's name now that we've, you know, tied it in there?
Great. So yeah, so I have my own freelancing business, and the name of the business is Conscious Research. And absolutely, that was my thinking around the name, was that I wanted to do research that was more meaningful, and that would be able, as you say, to shift society forward.
That's awesome. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for joining us today. If people want to get hold of you regarding either Smergos or Conscious Research, just quickly share your details. What is the best way to get hold of you?
Sure. So I am on the social media platforms. So on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. If you search for Nicole Vergos, I will come up. It's not that common of a name. And then in terms of my email, reach me at nicole@smergos.com.
So that story of where Smergos came from is a discussion for a different day. But Nicole, thank you so much for joining us once again on the Lightbulb Moment series, linked to The Big Idea. It was awesome chatting to you, and I hope to chat to you again soon. Bye for now.
Nick.